Good morning. So we are starting our hunter education unit today. And so what we're doing today, working up, hopefully we'll get it done before Thanksgiving break. We will be earning our hunter safety certificate, and this will help you get your hunter's license in Alabama if you choose to do so one day, and the test is free through what we do. Even if you don't want your hunter safety certificate and to help get your license, you still have to take this. It's still in my curriculum. It's still going to be a grade. Okay, so here, read first, Chapter 1, Introduction to Hunter Ed is our objective and our standard. Let me put that in there real quick. Okay, so now I have our standard in here. I guess I need to put the order in which we're doing things too. Let's see. Okay, so first we're going to read Chapter 1 and first half of Chapter 2. Take Chapter 1 assessment. Oh, let's do watch videos. There we go. Okay, so normally we would have, let me pull out a blank one. So if you were in class, I would be giving you a workbook, today's hunter, and it has all of the chapters in here, and then at the back it has note-taking and our worksheets, our assessments. There we go. Okay, so I have taken everything that's in here, and I put it into a Google Doc for us so that even if you're at home, you can still see everything. And I've included the important pictures. So I haven't included all the pictures, but I included what's important. Okay, so it's important that you pay attention through all of this because the test, you're only supposed to be able to take once. And if you don't pass it, you can never get your hunter's education license. So we need to make sure that we study and we know everything, okay? So our objectives are here. So why hunter education? The first mandated hunter education program began in New York in 1949 to reduce hunting incidents. As they've spread through the country, safety coordinators formed what is the International Hunter Education Association and create a core curriculum, which is the basis for this course. Okay, so this is something that as a nation we've decided that we need for hunters. So the program has always taught young hunters the practice of firearm and hunting safety. So we will be talking about guns. Firearms are guns. Today, hunter education programs are about more than safety. They've been expanding to produce responsible, knowledgeable, and involved hunters who understand the importance of complying with hunting laws and behaving ethically. These programs give beginners a good foundation and provide a refresher for veteran hunters. So we want you to be responsible, knowledgeable, and involved hunters that comply with the law and have ethics. So that means doing things morally correct, not necessarily just hunting to kill something, but hunting because you're providing for someone and you're going to be respectful. Responsibility, safety skills. The mission of hunter education programs is to develop safe, ethical, and responsible hunters and to ensure the continuation of the hunting tradition. That's an important one right there. Responsibility, safety skills, knowledge, and involvement. So we strive to instill responsibility, improve skills and knowledge, and encourage the involvement of beginner and veteran hunters. So this isn't just for people that have never heard of hunters. Maybe you've been hunting for a while. You still need to know this stuff. So responsible, ethical behavior and personal involvement are both essential to the survival of hunting. So responsibility, safety skills, knowledge, and involvement. Responsibility is a knowledgeable and skillful student of hunting will never be a true hunter unless he or she also behaves responsibly. Responsible behavior includes courtesy, respect of others and of wildlife, involvement. Responsible hunters do not poach or act carelessly. So poaching is the illegal hunting or capturing of wild animals usually associated with land rights. So I pulled this up for you so that you can see it. Poaching is when you are illegally hunting, like hunting at night or killing 3 deer in one sitting. Responsible hunters don't poach. They don't act carelessly. Responsible hunters obey hunting laws. There's laws for a reason. They're to keep people safe and to keep the species safe. Hunt fairly, practice safety rules, and wait for a clean kill before shooting. How you behave and how other people see you will determine hunting's future. Safety skills. Hunting-related safety skills are gained through hands-on training and practice. It is most valuable to learn these skills from an experienced hunter. Knowledge. Knowledge is learning and understanding the basics of safe gun handling and hunting. Before being trained in the skill of firearm shooting, you should know how the firearm operates and how to handle it safely. Involvement. Part of the process of becoming a true responsible sportsman is becoming involved in efforts to keep hunting a respected sport. This includes teaching others, working with landowners, and cooperating with game wardens. It also includes joining conservation organizations which help preserve habitat and promote wildlife management. Okay, so hunter education doesn't happen for free. Okay, all of these books cost money. All the supplies, the teachers that are instructed, all of that costs money, right? So the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services provides federal aid to state wildlife agencies to support a variety of hunting-related projects. Okay, so the hunting-related projects that the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service provide is hunter education, land acquisition, and improvement of wildlife habitat. The Federal Aid and Wildlife Restoration Funding was established in 1937 by the Pittman-Robertson Act. So the Pittman-Robertson Act from 1937 is what funds hunter education. State wildlife agencies sponsor our programs that are found in each state or province. Non-governmental organizations like Ducks Unlimited, the National Rifle Association, offer hunter education and firearm safety education materials and training, so they help us pay for our books. Many firearm and archery manufacturers provide training materials to teach teachers how to use their products safely, and local hunting clubs, civic clubs, and businesses often provide the facilities and equipment for hunter education courses. So the Pittman-Robertson Act, some more information. It's also known as the Federal Aid Wildlife Restoration Act. So Pittman-Robertson Act and the Federal Aid Wildlife Restoration Act are the exact same thing. The act provides the funding for the selection, restoration, and improvement of wildlife habitat and wildlife management research. So that's another project that is paid for. The act was amended in 1970 to include funding for hunter education programs. So in 1970 is when it started paying for the programs, which is what you're taking now. Funds for the act come from an 11% federal excise tax on sporting arms, ammunition, and archery equipment. So when you go and buy shotguns and rifles, ammunition, and archery equipment, 11% of that tax goes to the Pittman-Robertson Act. 10% of it goes to handguns, and half of the excise tax on handguns and archery equipment is used for hunter education and target ranges. So the taxes that you pay on guns help pay for these programs. These funds are collected from the manufacturers and are distributed each year to the states and territorial areas by the Department of the Interior. Each state's proportion of the federal funds is based on the area of the state and the number of licensed hunters in the state. So the more licensed hunters that we have, the more money we get through that program. The state covers the full amount of an approved project and then applies for a reimbursement through federal aid for up to 75% of the project's expenses. The state is responsible for the other 25% of the project's cost. Chapter 2. So that was Chapter 1. So now you can go back and take the Chapter 1 assessment. We're not going to finish Chapter 2 today. We're just going to get to about half of it. So that's why we're not taking the Chapter 2 assessment. Okay. There's also 3 videos here that go along with Chapter 2 that I'll talk about in a minute. Okay. So Chapter 1 assessment. A primary objective of a hunter education program is to what? Multiple choice. You can do it. Name 3. Make sure you name 3. Excuse me. Name 3 hunting-related projects for which the Federal Aid and Wildlife Restoration Act, or Pittman-Robertson Act, provides funding. We talked about 4, so you should easily be able to name 3. You can go back and look. Use your workbook. Use the Google Doc to answer these. Which of these is not a source of hunter education funding? And we talked about all of the types of funding that we get and the names of those. So you should be able to answer that. And name 3 behaviors of responsible hunters. There's like 10 listed, so you should be able to pick 3 easily. Okay, back to Chapter 2. So now we're going to talk about firearms. And I know guns are something that we don't normally talk about at school, but because of hunter safety and because you need to know how to properly use a gun in order to hunt or a bow, so a firearm, then you need to understand how they work and how to use them safely. So a firearm is a mechanical device that uses pressure from a burning powder to force a projectile through and out of a metal tube. To fully appreciate the importance of firearm safety, you must first understand how a firearm works, and that's what we're going to talk about today. This includes knowing the art of the firearm, the types of ammunition, how ammunition is fired, and the ranges of the various firearms used for hunting. And we're going to talk about all of that. Basic parts of a firearm. So there are 3 basic parts that you need to know. The action is the heart of the firearm. The moving parts that load, fire, and eject the shells of cartridges. Several types of actions are used in modern firearms, and then muzzle loaders have locks instead of actions. So we're going to talk about the different types of actions, and if you're not used to talking about guns or don't know much about guns, sometimes it can be confusing, but I'm going to try to clarify it, which is why I've broken Chapter 2 down into several parts. That way we can focus on the different types of actions so we don't get confused. Stock. The stock serves as the handle of the firearm, and it can be composed of 1 or 2 pieces and is usually made of wood or a synthetic material. So on your rifles and shotguns, this is the part that looks like wood. Then the barrel. The barrel is the metal tube that the projectile travels through. Bullets travel through the barrels of rifles and handguns. Shots travel through the barrels of shotguns. So the barrel is the long pointy thing on the end of the gun. So parts of a bolt-action rifle. Here we go. They have similar parts. All rifle, shotguns, and handguns all have similar parts. And here are the parts commonly used, but in the form of a bolt-action rifle. Okay? So let's just start back here at the butt. The butt is the part of the stock that you hold against your shoulder when shooting. It's a part that needs to be firm right here in your armpit. Safety is a mechanical device that blocks the trigger or hammer to prevent accidental firing. And safeties can look in several different ways. Sometimes it's like a little click, like a slide. Sometimes it's a button. Bolt action handle used to open a bolt action. So a bolt handle is you pull it up, push it forward, pull it back, push it back down. And we'll talk about bolt actions. So different actions aren't always right here, and they don't always look like this. So as we advance into this chapter, we'll learn the different types of actions. So the bolt is a movable metal block that seals a cartridge into the chamber on some actions. That way nothing can get in there with your bullet or shot. Chamber is base of the barrel used to hold the cartridge or shot shell ready for shooting. Sight is device used for aiming, usually by aligning a front and right rear sight. So sights are going to be these 3 little prongs that you line up on your target. Or some people put in a sight that's like a scope, where it's more advanced and sometimes easier to use. So the muzzle is the end of the barrel through which the projectile, bullet, or shot exits. So it's the exit, like the door, the muzzle. The barrel is the tube. Forestock is the front portion of the stock extending under the barrel in front of the receiver. And so that's the part that you usually hold or sit on something when you're shooting. The magazine is a container on a repeating firearm that holds ammunition before it's loaded into the chamber. Usually tubes or boxes attached to the receiver. In handguns, the magazine goes into the part that you hold with your hand. Trigger is a small lever that is squeezed to start the firing process. And then the trigger guard is the thing that surrounds the trigger so it's not as easily accidentally pulled on. Other firearm parts are the bore inside of the firearm barrel through which the projectile travels when fired, the breech end of the rear end of the barrel. A firing pin, a pin that strikes the primer of the cartridge, causing ignition, and then a receiver is the middle housing for the working parts of the action. Shotgun shells, or shot shells, use a slug or a shot as the projectile. A slug is a solid projectile, usually of lead, used for hunting big game with a shotgun. And shots are when there are multiple small little pellets fired through a shotgun barrel. So shot size is adaptable to the game being hunted. So depending on what you're hunting depends on the size of the shot that you use. The type of projectile is used typically to hunt game, birds, and small game animals. So the shot shell must match exactly the gauge. And a gauge is a term used to designate the bore diameter of a shotgun. Gauge is the number of lead balls that diameter is equal to the diameter of the bore that, when combined, weigh 1 pound. So shot sizes and gauge sizes we'll talk about in a minute. So gauge and shell length specified by the manufacturer. The information usually is found on the barrel of a shotgun. Shotguns may be chambered for 2.5, 2 3/4, 3-inch, or 3.5-inch shells. This refers to the length of the shell after it has been fired. Never load a shot shell that exceeds the approved shell length stamped on the barrel of your shotgun. If the shell is not the same as what is labeled on the outside of your shotgun, do not put it in your firearm. It can explode and it will hurt you. It will cause harm. Okay? You also must choose the correct type and size of shot for the shot shell. In general, as the size of your target decreases, you should decrease the diameter of the shot you use. As the pellet diameter decreases, more shot can be placed in a standard shot shell. The smaller the shot number, the larger the pellet diameter. That can be confusing. So the smaller the number, the larger the pellet. Shot shell marked as Magnum has more shot or more gunpowder than a regular shell. Magnum and regular shot shells are interchangeable if the correct gauge and shell length are used. Steel shot pellets react differently than lead when shot. Steel weighs about 2/3 as much as lead, but it is much harder. Steel does not deform and is not as unstable in flight. It will produce a tighter pattern than lead shot. If using steel shot for hunting, choose a steel shot size 1 to 2 size larger than the lead shot you would select, and choose a less constrictive choke. Okay, so shot sizes, shot number, the larger the number, the smaller the shot, okay? Diameter is the opposite. So it's the smaller the diameter, the smaller the size of the shot. But you go by shot number. So a 12 shot is the smallest. Number of lead pellets per ounce. Number of steel pellets per ounce. Okay, and buckshot sizes is the same. So the larger the shot number, the bigger the buckshot, okay? And then here's a visual for you of the shot being in the pellets or the slug. So they're both in shells, but this one's shot, this one's a slug. The shell case, the wad inside, the gunpowder. The gunpowder is what makes it go boom, right? And then shot shells have to have a primer, so that is what causes everything to go boom. It puts pressure on it. So non-toxic shot is required through the U.S. for waterfowl hunting, so ducks. Studies show that many waterfowl died each year because of lead poisoning. Lead pellets from traditional shot shells were picked up and digested by waterfowl. Their toxic effects spread to other birds, such as the bald eagle, which is consumed the poisoned waterfowl. So when they ate the smaller animals, it was poisoning them as well. To reduce this problem, conservationists worked with shot shell manufacturers to produce effective alternatives to lead shot. So now we use steel, tungsten alloy, or bismuth shot. How a firearm works. So the same physical process is used to shoot shot shells from shotguns or cartridges from rifles or handguns. Pulling the trigger causes the firing pin to strike and explode the primer in the base of the cartridge or shot shell. So when you cock a gun, that pulls the trigger back. When you pull the trigger, it hits the firing pin, strikes, and explodes the primer, and then the whole thing goes boom, and the pressure pushes it forward. The spark from the primer ignites the gunpowder. That's why it's hot after you shoot, which burns rapidly and converts to a gas. The gas rapidly expands and drives the projectiles through the barrel with great force. I'm so sorry I keep yawning. How the rifle and handgun fire. How the shotgun shoots. So these are the same. You load the gun, you pull the trigger, it makes it go boom. Okay, so in our folder today, I've uploaded a video, Basic Rules of Hunter Safety, Firearm Safety video, and then I posted 2 videos of how firearms work. One's a handgun, and one is a shotgun. Okay, and shotguns and rifles are similar. So you need to watch all of those videos, and then tomorrow, the next time we meet, we'll talk about chapter 2 and 3. We'll finish chapter 2, do 3, and we'll take the assessments for both of those next time. I know I just threw a lot of information at you. This whole unit is a lot of information. So hopefully, if you get confused, you'll let me know. That way I can help you, because I really need you to understand this stuff, okay? If you have any questions, email me. Don't forget our canned food drive that's ending on November 16th, okay? I'll grade your SAEs today, and I'll have those grades posted. Don't forget that on Sunday, you will owe me 28 hours and 9 pictures. I hope you're happy and healthy, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.